Hi everyone, welcome to Dyslexic Design Thinking, the bigger picture with amazing dyslexics. I'm your host, Gil Gershoni. In this episode of Amazing Dyslexic Salon, we're exploring how inventors and marketeers challenge existing ideas to make room for new ones. Enjoy. Hi Tom, hi Woody, how are you guys doing?
Hi. Good afternoon to those in the UK. Good morning to those in the States.
Thank you. Great to have you guys. Woody, tell us a little bit about yourself and what dyslexia means to you in a word or a sentence. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So I'm Steve Woodgate, number 44 in the book, which is a great number for me because it's Lewis Hamilton's number as well. It's really good. So one of the reasons why I'm here to talk is about communications, and I ended up being in a industry, marketing communications industries, where it's actually the polar opposite to what dyslexia are thinking. If you think about writing, spelling, writing the perfect copy, detail, campaigns, something which I'm very inspired to is to think about how marketing can actually be a force for creativity and putting the art back into the science coming through. And I've been very fortunate to work for some amazing technology companies over the years, and I've seen the increase of accessibility technology come to the forefront. And over the course of this salon, I would love to talk about how technology is actually helping people with dyslexia to create a much fairer playing ground for people without dyslexia. Things like how you can understand and consume content in a really innovative way, how you can actually learn and educate in a much more effective manner as well. And there's a lot of stats and science behind it, but the overall thing is that there's never been a better time to add value. And with someone with dyslexia, using technology to plug in the gaps, which the things which we may struggle with a little bit, will propel us quicker forward. So can't wait to talk all about that and all the exciting innovations which we've seen in technology.
Oh, that's great. I don't know how we used to be able to overcome dyslexia without all these amazing tools, and some of the tools that you been spearing and progressing and thinking and really what's the next generation of some of these technologies can really help us even more so bring our superpowers to life. Tom, how's it going?
I'm good, thank you.
So tell me a little bit about who you are, so the audience all over the world can hear about it, and what is dyslexia means to you.
Sure. So my name's Tom Pellereau. I'm an inventor, a mechanical engineer in the UK. I was fortunate enough to win the BBC Apprentice show, which is probably one of the biggest shows on the BBC in the UK, sort of 10 million viewers for the final. And it's a kind of combination of Shark Tank meets Apprentice in the UK. So from that, I actually won investment from Lord Sugar, or Lord Sir, used to be Sir Alan Sugar, now Lord Sugar, who's a billionaire, self-made billionaire. And he and I work together. I kind of run the business, and I'm in charge of coming up with the ideas and packaging them. And he helps me try and get these big deals into. So we just launched into Costco warehouses in America with my makeup brush cleaner. In terms of dyslexia, I think I'm one of the lucky ones, because I think I was possibly the sort of, I went to a very progressive school, and they recognized my dyslexia from about the age of 8 or 9. And whereas my parents really, really struggled at school and were probably just thought of as being stupid, I was dyslexic. And I got a lot of extra help through that. And I really found that dyslexia has been a very positive thing in my life the whole way through. And I've been very fortunate that every year technology seems to get better and better and fills in the gaps of the things that I'm not so good at. Spelling, the old F7 on Word, the spell check shortcut has always been, my key as I was growing through. And every year the technologies get better and better. I can't wait till it can help with my memory a little bit more. I find places and names quite tricky, and I can't wait till my glasses or whatever will say, this is Ruth that you met in last year, and so you can tell them stuff, because I personally find, and I don't know if this is a dyslexic thing, that my memory, especially short term, is not great. Names and those sort of things. But I don't know if there's actually a link with that with dyslexia, or if it's just separate.
Yeah, very much so. You have to work out some little memory hooks Someone said to me that someone called James, just imagine them covered in jam and things like that. You have to get a visual.
Really fun to do, but sometimes it's challenging. But for me, dyslexia has always been a very, very positive thing, and I think probably helps me visualize things and visualize ideas. Where I struggle with dyslexia is then trying to communicate those ideas, and actually explaining them in a way. Like, for me, it's just there, and I can see it, and I can picture it, and I can make it, and I can turn it around, and I don't understand why other people, like, I look at people and they're just glazed. I'm like, what is he talking about? And that but that's a difficulty with all creatives, probably.
Yeah,
absolutely. You know, it's as we all think differently, right? There's no one way, and the brilliance of what you guys do, what we all do as dyslexic, is be able to see that big picture and be able to connect non-linear things, ideas, categories, solutions, see the opportunity. But we need each other to sort of really bring that to, as you say, time to market, right? A good idea is only as good as you can actually express it and have the world share it, which, Woody, I mean, you do that every day with marketing and technology and connecting people. Woody, what would surprise your younger self that you thought you couldn't have done that you can do now? Is there something that as you were little, you said, oh my God, this was so difficult. How can I ever overcome it? But now you're just absolutely thriving and you know, surprise yourself. What would that be for you?
Yeah, there's a few things, and I loved hearing about Tom talking about eight or nine. Like, I unfortunately went to like a quite a poor state school where dyslexia wasn't necessarily on the radar at all. And part of my when I was dyslexic, I'm also dyspraxic, so you have to forgive my mumbling or I'm talking too quickly, but my brain and my lips don't quite sync up most of the time. So it's worse after a few beers, trust me. but nevertheless, me actually just standing here, because I have a standing desk because I'm a millennial, and talking to you guys and hopefully sounding reasonably clear, it's just, for me, if I go to my 5-year-old self and go, wow, you can actually do that and speak in front of hundreds or if not thousands of people, absolutely incredible. And there's like a little story which I always fondly remember, and it was a Christmas play, and I was at school, so I was there, quite a shy kid. No one could really understand me, like when I was trying to talk. However, it was a Christmas play, and I was dressed as a builder. No idea why. I suppose someone had to build the stables or something. But there was this situation where there was this cool kid who was told that his role at the end of the assembly play was to go up to the end of the stage and wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And at the time, I didn't even think about it. But on one particular performance, the little boy was struggling. Like he didn't want to go up. And in my infinite wisdom, whether it's my creative problem solving, I went up there with teachers trying to grab me left, right, and center. And I just stood there and wished everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And apparently I sounded as clear as day, according to my mum. But it was just a really good thing to get over. And the biggest thing about that, about the young thing, and that if I could go back, and Tom's made a career of thinking like this as well, is that kids, when they're 5, they're actually geniuses. Like, in terms of divergent thinking, it's actually what they learn actually slows their thinking down in terms of creativity and thinking much more of a bigger picture wide. So something which I'm a really advocate for is to bring that divergent thinking back into adulthood. You know, let's have some fun about thinking and creating problem solving and role playing and all that kind of stuff to actually come up with some amazing ideas and concepts. And that's one of the reasons why I've gone into communications, because if you think about the flood of communications that we have now, for someone who's dyslexic, trying to understand 10,000 different communications per day can be really overwhelming. So what can we do to actually simplify like the whole world we live in, so everyone's very transparent and actually understands what we want to achieve? And I really think that technology, it's as much about technology. Technology is much about, social media, as an example, is as much about technology as it is about sociology and psychology. So if we can actually all come together and think much more openly and come together with brilliant ideas, we can do a lot better as a society. So back to your original questions, because dyslexics often like to go on a tangent. Is that I would love to tell my 5-year-old self that you're going to turn out all right. You're going to do okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I know that something that you're really interested in is how, as you said, the psychology, how do we meet stories? How do we meet knowledge? How do we meet sort of each other through these digital forms? And Tom, I know you do the same. You really like to sort of see the opportunity or the negative space where things maybe can be done differently or better, and invent and improve and change how we use physical things. Tom, tell me, what would surprise your younger self that you didn't think you can ever do, or that you even be here today?
Oh wow, this is a huge number. I think so. On that story, I was in the school play. I was always the guy who did the light. I was not the guy on the stage, never ever, but I did always want to be the making things. So I suppose I had dreams that maybe I would be designing and inventing things. But would I ever have thought I'd be designing things to clean and dry makeup brushes, and that they would be, they'd be globally selling? Definitely not. What I will say, and I think one of the biggest benefits of dyslexia, but it's not necessarily easy to hear, is that it taught me to work really hard. Like at school, it was tough. Like I would see people around me who I thought I was good at, and they didn't struggle in any way near as much in English, and I had to work 2-3 times as hard, longer than them. But in life, you will often realize that the successful people are the people who've worked really, really, really hard, and we've got 4 people here, and I imagine all of you work really, really, really hard, and that's why you've been successful. And I do actually look around at some of my friends who are very good at everything. Like we all know those guys and girls at school who are just really good at everything. But actually, as life goes on, that's not necessarily what you want to learn at school, that everything's easy, because life is not. So for those young dyslexics watching this, unfortunately, you've just got to work really hard, but that's very, very good for you.
Yeah, I mean that's something that came out again and again in the book, is that working really hard and doing something you love is just that, and collaboration were the 3 kind of golden tickets, really.
Yeah,
so true. Yeah.
Life did get easier. Like I was able to give up French. As soon as I could give up a language, that was quite handy. I never got the French exam in my life. As soon as I was able to focus on technology and science, yes.
Yeah. How did you get to being an inventor? How did you get from kind of being at school? Did you do A-levels? Did you go down the art route?
I did for A-levels I did maths, design and science, or physics, and then at university I studied mechanical engineering, so I was very kind of mechanical. I was always going to make things, I suppose. So
you love taking things apart and putting them back together, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and also I was lucky because it was a very clear path to me. Like those people who can do everything, when they get to the A-level and then the university, and it's like, I can do everything. Where is my niche? And you have to choose. Whereas for me, it was like, I'm just doing that. It's really easy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you think that, part of the bigger picture and part of seeing all the details, is that some of how dyslexia help you in the industry? How do you sort of define between what is your dyslexia and you're brilliant looking at things versus the rest of the industry? Tell me a little bit about that.
It's a really good question, because I'm not in somebody else's head, so I don't know how necessarily I might be different. I seem to be able to visualize things more easily than other people sometimes, which it must be a dyslexic thing. I think we also have more random thoughts. I don't know if that's right, but we get distracted. It seems more easily, which is sometimes really good, because like, I could do this. And I was in the middle of working on something today, and a sample of something else that I ordered arrived, and I'm instantly like, oh wow, let's go and play with this. Not even remotely concentrate on what's supposed to be doing today. But I was like, because I've received this, I've got this idea for tweezers, and I've received something for it, and it's not even remotely what I should be doing today. But it was really fun, and it could become like, there's a chance it could. Because this makeup brush cleaner was just an idea which was a bit of fun, and we've sold 10 or 15 million pounds worth of them now, and it was literally some bits of plastic on my desk. And that's the amazing thing about the world now, that you can have these ideas, be they digital, be they physical, which can be sold everywhere, which is an incredible opportunity.
Yeah.
So something on like Tom's point there, and I do think it's a common trait that you often think about the end product before getting there. So I always use the metaphor of a car journey as an example. So you have to leave, you have to turn left, you're on a motorway, but sometimes you have to be in a slow lane, sometimes you're in a fast lane, sometimes you have to overtake, sometimes you're in traffic, sometimes the weather conditions, but you know the destination where you want to get to. It's just sometimes you need help driving the car to get there, or the support, or you need some passengers sometimes, or you need the radio station to tell you traffic updates. But it's all that journey. But I believe that people with dyslexia have a really good view of what the end point is, whether that's in any kind of topic. For me, like throughout my career, I want to work in communications. I knew I wanted to work into communications before I was diagnosed with dyslexia. Just the fact I got dyslexia has just made me triply or double down on it just to make sure I can get into that situation. And I kind of know that I would love to be a tech entrepreneur someday, but I want to learn how to communicate, whether all the way through different organizations. Mm-hmm. But I agree with you, like visualizing the end product comes quite easily. It's just getting there is often the fun journey, I suppose.
Yeah,
absolutely.
A question: do you think fear of failure is less of an issue for dyslexics because we just fail so much as a young age? We're used to just getting stuff wrong.
Yeah.
Like for me, spelling is just always going to be wrong, so it doesn't really bother me if I spell something wrong. Whereas other people, it's like a hugely big deal.
Yeah. It does take some awareness of yourself and your strengths and the ability to know that yes, I can't do it linearly like my classmates or my colleagues, but I can leap and I can jump and and I can do it in a different way. And also part of that fear of failure, for me is what drives me. What the immense drive to just sort of explore. I love what you were saying around the distractions of seeing all these kind of things at the same time. And as an inventor, that's probably it's probably part of the amazing gift. And I'm sure as well as a marketeer and working with technology with so much different stimulants and so many different things that are happening in the world all at the same time, and figuring out how to dance with that and how to control that. How do you guys regulate that? What do you guys do within your individual industries to sort of to balance that, or is it all the time on, or do you listen to music, or do you do any? What you were mentioning some different techniques as well. Tell us a little bit about some tips or some insight to how do you control it or sit with it.
Woody.
So I'm terrible at working in silence. In fact, silence distracts me more than it does noise. So I quite like music and stuff, but I work my best when I've got music in my ears, having like a kind of good focus, and that gives me an opportunity to almost the music kind of blocks out everything, so I can focus in on task. In which focusing on task can be very troublesome. And working, having worked for two massive corporate organizations as well like that, there's a lot of things which you have to do and focus on. So it's really interesting. Where I suppose the fear of failure thing, which Tom spoke about, is that I think I'm less nervous to get into trouble, and I'm more curious to ask why. So I don't think I'm necessarily a conformist in that way, in the sense that if I get asked to do something, I would need to know why or context much more effectively. Like I need to love the I need to be told a story. Like I need to say, why am I doing this? How is the world going to be better for me doing this?
Yeah, but can I just say something? That's almost like bringing it back to when you mentioned being a child. A child is a curious object who's always asking questions. And if you can keep that playful mind and that curiosity, you're going to keep on learning and expanding and coming up with some great ideas. I just thought that related with what you said about being a child, and a child is the most creative. And it's unfortunate when we go to school, it's it's almost, not recognised, or it's not given enough time to nurture all those good things that we're great at. I mean, it would be fantastic if we could have like a tailored education, if you got a child and you recognise that that child is good at, I don't know, textiles or woodwork, but they had more hours in the week to nurture that, as opposed to, banging in the English and the history and the geography. It's just, I don't know. But I think it's important to keep a playful mind, and stay curious.
Yeah, like absolutely. Like to that point, like I've always loved learning. I've always loved like skim reading books, because reading detailed books can get tiresome and you read text and forget about it. But skim reading, watching things, learning things, watching The Apprentice, learning how they can be geniuses and earn lots of money and all that kind of stuff. But the biggest thing now is that with technology increasing, is that you don't have to remember when World War I started. Like you have Google or Bing for that. You have things. So the whole notion of education needs to be changed, because we have information at the touch of our fingertips. So now it's not about being a memory test. It's about how you actually apply the knowledge to think creatively or come up to your own conclusions as well. And heaven forbid why there's still exams in schools, in terms of, which is the case about remembering stuff.
Okay.
When I was going through education, I used to do well until it came to exams. And there was two fundamental reasons. One, because of dyspraxia and dyslexia, my handwriting was absolutely abysmal. So if you're a teacher who's marked 25 papers, and you come to mine and can't make it out, you're obviously going to mark terribly, because it's frustrating and stuff like that, which is fine. Like I had my piece with that. But when I was doing so well on like coursework and stuff like that, and oral presentations and all that kind of stuff, and thinking and presentating and all that kind of stuff, it actually lacks all that skill. And so I'm done all my good work getting it. And it's amazing now when you go further into education. I think I got smarter, or academically smarter, when I started to learn things which I wanted to learn about.
Yeah.
So when I did A-levels in sociology, psychology, trust me, spelling those two was hard enough. And actually coming together, and I was learning about people, and I was deeply fascinated about people, and the good-natured person in me, I wanted to be a journalist because I wanted to tell stories for a living. And what an amazing job, like telling stories is. And like it's the best way of communicating. And so that's where like educating is. It's about that storytelling, the contextual learning, and bringing all the stories together. And I think you guys know how my dream journalist got shattered in like the blink of an eye.
Tell everyone else.
Okay. So I studied journalism and loved journalism, loved the writing, loved the talking, loved the interviewing of people, loved finding stuff out, liked building context. One of my career highlights today was hearing two old men behind me on a train talk about the story I wrote, and I still love that. Two people. That wasn't a 1,000 retweets. It was just hearing two guys behind me talk about the story I wrote for a local paper. But at the time, like my lifelong ambition then, teenagers, and you often have many, was to be a sports journalist. And I was desperate to be a sports journalist. Like I could not think of a better way to spend my life watching football, cricket, rugby, and writing about it. I'm watching it anyway on a Saturday. I might as well get paid for it. And again, maybe that's my dyslexic thinking that to come to that. But there's a situation where I became a freelance journalist for the Hampshire Chronicle, and it was a great job. So I was being sent to write stories about non-league football and send my copy in, and I was printed in the paper. And I still got all these cuttings at home. Like it's so cool.
I remember. I lived in the Hampshire Chronicle area. My parents, that's where I grew up. I remember it well.
Wow.
I probably read some of my copy. I went to university in Southampton, so I kind of stayed around there. And from that like progression, I got asked to cover a bigger league game. So there was a paper which you may remember, Tom, called The Pink, which was released on a Saturday, and it was printed at 5:30. So normally football kicks off at 3. So you had about a 20-minute window to supply your copy for it to get printed in the paper for people to buy it that evening. It was traditionally an old thing for people to find out football results, traditionally. But I can remember one time where I covered this non-league game, but instead of emailing my copy, which I've been doing because the match report wasn't released till Monday, I had to phone my copy in. And it was the most most frustrating, heartbreaking situation in my career. And for the reason is that I had to write the perfect match report there and then. I had to read my own handwriting and dictate it down the phone to someone else to write the copy. So not only I had spelling mistakes, I had grammar mistakes, I had weird punctuation, but also, as many people with dyslexia might find, actually reading out loud is difficult as well. So if you ever look out trying to read someone down the phone, and it just went completely tits up, to be honest. And I didn't submit the match report, which was very needed. So my big opportunity, dare I say, I completely threw it, car crash, awful, in the bin, see you later journalism, all the time. And it was at a time when social media kind of came fruition, and I suddenly liked Twitter because it was 130 characters at the time, and you can actually build. So I decided to take my journalism skills and go to more corporate storytelling. So I studied public relations and fell in love with brand reputation, understanding consumers, understanding customers, but actually thinking much more widely about a communication strategy. And that's kind of propelled me into the technology field, which I'm in. And I suppose what that day taught me was resilience. And I lost my dream, and it was fine because I got to build a new one. So going all the way through.
Yeah.
Perfect.
What a story! What a heartfelt story about, again, just overcoming. And I think what you said also earlier is that it's a medium versus understanding and embodying the story, and being creative and learning and being curious, and how do we apply that? Tom, tell me a little bit about what's some of your hacks, what's some of your approaches to sort of regulate and work within your dyslexia.
So when I was young, I remember I used to work late at night a lot. I used to carry on work at university. Certainly I would be working till 1, 2, 3 a.m. because I found when it was dark and quiet, I could really, really focus. I find it quite tricky to turn off the noise, the chatter, the conversations of others. I pretty much can listen into every conversation in the room at the same time, and would go and we'll be like, oh no, the answer to that, or to that. Or,
Yeah.
and then you run that is quite tricky, and it's quite unnerving for everyone else when you're like, yeah, it's on page 10, and they're like, how did you even hear what I was talking about? It's like, well, yeah, it's just that. But I still work late. I enjoy working late. I listen to loud music quite a lot when I really want to focus. Swedish House Mafia is a particular favorite, which when I told people they're like, what? You listen to stuff? I was like, yeah, it's really good, especially the Live in New York set. It's just phenomenal. Shame they broke up, but I'm sure they'll be back. So loud music helps, but I break up my day a bit in the fact that most of the day when others are around is sort of working with a team, helping with certain bits. I like to be really involved, and in the evening I can focus more. That is a bit problematic now that I have kids, because obviously you have to do bath time and that sort of stuff in between as well. But that's Lord Sugar probably is the biggest cause of my focus, though, because he is very you've got to deliver, you've got to make these things work. You can't just be too distracted by doing things in this field and that field and that field. We have our niche, and that's beauty accessories, and we're doing very nice work there. I would love to do motorbikes and other things, but maybe down the line one day. A personal obsession is electric bikes. I think they are just epically cool. And I have one, but current EU law means that they're not allowed to go more than 15 miles an hour, which is ridiculous. One day that'll get solved, because electric bikes are incredible. Some of the unlimited ones that they have in Asia, just insane. You can beat any car off the lights. One day we'll get into that. But focus is discipline. And as you get older, I think you get better with discipline. And having someone who's very loud and very frightening as a business partner.
Yeah, this helps.
Tom, can I ask a question? I think in the book you mentioned that you used to do a lot of mind mapping to get your ideas down. Do you still use that technique?
Yes, every day. So that's how I plan out my schedule. What I've got to do is mind map it. New ideas, mind mapping. I am frustrated at the speed at which technology is. Like mind mapping on a computer should be amazing, but it's not, and it hasn't really changed in 20 years actually. And I feel that there's much better to-do list tools that could relate to mind mapping and that stuff. And I can't wait till it's all 3D and around me and I can spin it. That stuff. And seems I've got to wait for that stuff. But mind mapping on one of the best innovations that I've had recently is Pilot brought out a pen that you can rub out. So it's a normal pen. It's called the Friction, and I managed to get a 4-color version of it from Japan. I have to import them, but they're 4 colors, and you can write, and then you can rub it out, and then you can rewrite. And I use that very extensively. I have 8 of them, which I carry around. Of course, I don't have one actually on me now. But rub out pens, I suppose you might say, well, there's a pencil, Tom. You could just use a pencil. But I like colors. Someone's just mentioned in the chat how they have to have things in different colors. All over that. And e-books are getting better every year as well.
I think visualizing, I can relate it to with the colors as you're doing too, and people in the chat are mentioning as well, is like really organizing myself, starting and trying to create a linear form, if it's digital or on paper or on the board, where I just write it out and then be able to move things around in order to put them in the structure that allows me to see the big picture and then narrow it down to the individual tasks. Because I can kind of see timing, I can kind of see what needs to come first and second. And then with that, adding color, you can see how level of sort of effort or point or timing can kind of help control that. When you guys are sort of writing and making your ideas or making some, marketing strategies and plan, how do you, with mind mapping, or Woody, how do you map it? Do you have a technique around that? Do you have a structure that you can kind of fill in and helps you see the forest for the trees and see the story in there? Any technique you want to share with us on that?
Yeah. There's a few. To Tom, it's really interesting you say that. Where I do think technology's made a small step towards mind mapping, but there's nothing brilliant than getting a big old whiteboard and like proper Iron Man type style kind of thing. But in terms of like what I do, something what I've learned as a coping mechanism, I suppose, is that have different inputs of technology. So sometimes I like to talk to myself, and visualize that. So there's technology out there which do amazing dictation, as an example. So if there's like a note I want to talk through my mumblings, I suppose, or my nonsense ideas to get to a good one, instead of like writing them out or typing them out, I often speak to myself, and dictation, and read it back to see what I can do. And that kind of activity often looked very strange when I was doing it in an office, but over the last 6 months it's been incredible, because the only person who has to put up with me is my fiance and my cat. So that coming together. So in terms of getting ideas down, I find that a really, really useful tool. And I kind of have my artificial intelligence around the house. So if you think of like Google Now and Alexa, which I use to dictate notes as well. So you kind of know when you say you have your best ideas in the shower, for instance, but when you can step outside the shower and go, Google, take this note down, and you can kind of just say it and you can refer back to it. I'm not sure about Tom, but often a lot of my thoughts and ideas I actually forget, in a good way, where I think that's a great idea. And what's that idea again? How that comes together. You mentioned about the short-term memory earlier, but I often do that. So having technology around the house really helps me. And I'm a stickler for Windows laptops. So I love the digital input. So the touchscreen laptop where you can actually digitally write. and do maths equations, all that kind of stuff, and it just automatically turned into text. Love all that kind of stuff because it's just different inputs and outputs to get through. And something which, when I was doing my early stages of when I was talking about dyslexia, I wasn't confident enough to stand up and tell stories. So I often had a script. And there's things which are actually embedded in Microsoft's Office 365, so things like Word and OneNote, where you can actually split the words out into syllables. So when you're reading out loud, you're not reading the words or trying to get the words in your head. You can actually read the syllables. So therefore, when reading out loud, it was a lot easier to follow if you were reading word for word. And it really,
so helpful.
Yeah, it's really helpful. And you can do things like read speeds. So you can highlight the words where it goes through. There's the Toby technology in which can follow your eyeballs as well. So what word you're looking at can actually light up. So if you think about that as a direct focus for helping a 5-year-old with dyslexia to read much more effectively, all these things are absolutely possible. And this technology is the worst kept secret in a lot of ways. And people need to do a better job, or communicators, or to find out a better way of actually how to get these into kids, into schools. And they're made by Dyslexia Association. I believe this week just done an initiative about training every teacher on the planet on dyslexia. So initiatives are so good and so important to go. And I'm a big fan of technology where if I had technology at a very, very early age, I think I could have had a jump up in my career, my professional life, and do something different. But I'm here, and I can't believe how happy I am now that I've come out, or whatever kind of term, about dyslexia, and be really public about it, to actually really lean on my strengths on how to develop that.
Yeah, because that's sorry, I was going to say that's so important, isn't it, to for everyone to be honest about it, so that we can inspire the next generation, you know, of using their dyslexic strengths, and that they, you know, you feel very alone sometimes, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's almost the worst place to be, in your own head, like trying to fight these struggles. And I've been very fortunate in that I've had some amazing managers and some amazing people who I've worked with who complemented the skills I have, or harnessed my strengths and turned them into much more, turn them to become much more impactful with the work I'm doing. Where before I would often get criticism like I'm arrogant, as an example. But I wasn't arrogant, I was asking why, or understand that, or I didn't understand that point. But I've had some great mentoring, some amazing coaching to how I can sort of just change that, like little tack adjustments, to make sure that I can be much more impactful with what I do and where I do it, I suppose.
Yeah. I love that you get. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, the summary of all of this, right, is that we all have amazing strengths. I think in many respects, dyslexia helps to amplify those into certain things. I think to a point, dyslexics do attract dyslexics. So I now employ 3 other dyslexics. And the irony is that often we're the guys who end up doing the copy on things. I think there's an aspect of dyslexics don't really like reading words. So we're always keen to trim as many words out of every sentence or every copy as possible. And actually, when people are in a rush, that's what they want as well. So I think we're pretty good at making marketing copy, especially digital ads, because
you get to the point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We've been trimming letters out of words for our whole life. You know, my whole brand is made out of a dyslexic spelling of the word style.
Yeah.
You know, that's like the whole thing has been that. And so apparently in this digital world, we're even better positioned possibly than many others. So in future we'll probably be held back. We'll be like, no, you're dyslexic, or you should have less time for this thing because you're actually better than others. But so that's the fortunate position that we're in, and bless technology for helping us achieve that.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing, is that I like technology's yet to catch up to dyslexic thinking as well. So as opposed to where it was often the other way, where we were the slaves to technology about like input, output. Oh, computer says no, do it again. It's actually, technology is now there to help us in the way we want it. So whether that's better mind mapping, whether that's spelling, whether that's artificial intelligence to understand your last memories, you know, via your phones, all that kind of stuff. But technology now is my sidekick, it's my Robin to me being Batman, and that's something what I love for it to go through, and it will just get better as well. Like, it's no way near perfect yet. It's a stage where you can actually level the playing field by having these amazing assistants to do the heavy lifting of stuff which you're not good at. Like, one of my criticisms, one of my feedbacks was always about number crunching, but now there's things like Power BI dashboards which does all the data crunching for me, you know, for instance, so I can tell the story with the output, you know, which is my strength. So yes, it's super interesting, the world we're about to go into.
I know. I can't wait to see the kind of things you're going to continue to invent and you know, develop solutions on top of this technology to sort of help us all in the future, and dyslexic and non-dyslexic. You know, I know at Gershoni we very much use technology, but we also very much embrace the old mediums. You know, like you said, the pens, the boards, the post-its, because sometimes you take these stories and you take these projects and you take these ideas and you see them differently when you make them tangible, when you hold them, you know, as you were both saying, like, making things simple is actually harder, right? But as a dyslexic, when you're looking at a problem or you're looking at how to bring it to market, you can see through it and see almost the essence of it, you know, like your brand, Tom, just bring it to the essence of style, you know, and as you and I were talking earlier, Woody, around how do we bring technology to support different way of learning languages, which we sometimes have challenges with. So it's really interesting how all these things come together in different ways to support us, and to be able to ask for help from each other, from our team, but also from our tools and our technologies, you know, and lean on them. As we get to the top of the hour and we're wrapping up, I love to hear from you guys. If your older self would give you advice today, if your 9-year-old self had something to give you today to sort of help you where you are, what do you think your older self would say to yourself? Tom, let's start with you.
It's a very good question. I don't know. I think you keep battling, I should imagine. You know, just keep pushing, keep trying, keep being creative, keep being true to yourself. You know, and I think probably the answer will be it'll get easier. You know, I see the comments from Michelle and Danny saying that schools are tricky. You know, it is a tricky stage. That schooling stage, I think, as a dyslexic, and I don't think, unfortunately, schooling is improving that much. It's still quite a tick box thing, and it's kind of against dyslexics, really. Yeah. Unfortunately, just got to battle through it. And I think quite a lot of life currently is also kind of maybe against us in some respects. You've got to battle through it. So hopefully, my older self will be like, yeah, you did well. Well done. You know, keep battling, and that's probably what all of us ultimately want to hear. That you know, well done, you're doing your best, sort of thing. Yeah. and don't give up.
Don't give up.
Which I must admit, you know, at times, especially at the moment, is pretty tough to not, because a lot of life is actually just huge quantity of stuff that you need to get done. Yeah. And dyslexia, where you're just coming up with new ideas the whole time, doesn't really help that. Because there's always this new, but if we did that, wouldn't that be amazing? And there's a ton of work that comes with that.
Yeah, I was just saying, come on, you two. You surely can sort out coronavirus between the two of you. Exactly. The technology and invention.
It could have been communicated a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah, should have had a dyslexic up there.
Yeah. Well, Matt Hancock is.
Oh, Matt is! Oh.
Yeah.
We're live.
So Woody, what would your older self, what advice he would give you today?
With the power of hindsight, or...
It's your older self, whatever you want, whatever your older self would say to you, we'll take it, you know?
I'd say I'm glad you didn't give up.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah.
Well, I think that probably come up as well, you know, because some of the things we all like to get up to on the weekend with cycling and various different pursuits. You sometimes wonder, is that really sensible? Man, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, you guys. This was wonderful. You know, a lot of common things, but also all of us are different, and our dyslexia is different. So to be able to hear your perspective, everybody in the book's perspective, how they see the world, how they wrestle with these challenges in different ages, and how they found tools to really not to make it a disability, but to really turn it into a hyperability. And Kate and Kathy, thank you so much for bringing us all together, for putting this gorgeous, gorgeous book. You know, and I love as a dyslexic that there's so many ways to read this book and to take the stories. You know, yay!
I'm a little bit confused because I think I'm 44. Am I not 44? I think it's
short-term memory.
You know,
I'm 45, then I'm straight after you.
Tom and Woody, both your favourite colours are green. How weird is that? We've had two guests tonight. Woody, your favourite colour was green. Tom, your favourite colour was green.
Oh, and thank you, Gil, for pulling all this together with your wonderful team.
Such a pleasure, and we're so excited to be able to do more of these, everybody out there. Thank you so much for submitting the questions and to showing up and to spreading the word and to getting the book. Our next salon, which I'm so excited about as well, is going to come up on October 29th. At 10 UK, 6 p.m. UK and 10 a.m. California time, where we're going to be discussing a conversation on dyslexia, education, inclusiveness, and really going to get into that. And please RSVP for the event, spread the word, and join us at the end of the month on the 29th. Tom, Woody, Kane, Kathy, thank you so much for being here today. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And, you know, here's to amazing dyslexics. Thank you to our guests. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dyslexic Design Thinking. We have a lot more great content coming, so make sure to like and subscribe. Dyslexic Design Thinking is produced by Gershoni Creative, created in partnership with Amazing Dyslexics.